Welcome to the Jack Frost Mystery Stab Along. So far I've used 127 grams of slivers, that's Corriedale slivers, or carded, depending on what you're using and where you're getting it from. So I will just move this into the middle and then you can see what it is I am doing. I've been rolling it around a skewer. So what's happened is that I made the longest one and then the slightly smaller ones, and then joined those up at the top, and I flipped it over and then I put some padding in, and as you can see it's pretty squidgy. I am going to pass this on to you that you need to make these pretty squidgy too. Do not get into the trap of rolling them too tight, which I kind of have here. I've also marked out where the brows should be and the nose should be, but we'll get to that in a little while, because we will be adding eyeballs and brow ridges and obviously the nose, the cheeks, the chin and the lips. So without further ado, let's get cracking. I've got a skewer here. Now, there's two ways of doing this, because if you've never done a stab along with me before, what you need to know is that I'm all about educating you. I'm all about giving you options and not about you learning by rote. This is to empower you so that you can go on and do things by yourself and not constantly rely on other people telling you how to do it. Okay, so the proportionality of this is it's in threes. Okay, so there's your brow ridge, there's your nose, chin, top of your head. It'll alter slightly. Okay, so don't get too hung up on how big it is to start off with. Mine is approximately 25 centimeters. That's about 10 inches if I measured over the top. If you just measure like that from end to end, it comes out at about 9. But if it was 7, it wouldn't matter. You just proportionality. You just chop it up in proportion. The width again. What have I got? I have got currently from over the top again. It's 9, but that'll probably go in somewhat and come out at other places. So don't get too wide. You know, actually, I'm at 8. Just is my best advice is don't get too wide. You're making an egg shape. Okay, so it needs to be thinner at the top and fatter at the bottom. We will be taking those in. Look, if I do that, you know, you can start to see a face emerging already, can't you? Okay, so just bear that in mind. So we'll start with the middle one. Now, I will pop that to one side just so you can kind of see it. So what you can do, you can either wrap it around a skewer, which is really quite easy, makes life easier. So what I do is I lick the end. You might like to be all hygienic and go and wet it under a tap, like a nice person, but I'm not, so I don't. I just lick it. I'm going to split my carded slivers just because to begin with it's easier, and I'm going to just take that over the top there. Look, nice and tight. Yep. Okay, so you've got that. I'll do that again because it is a bit scary. Curl it over and then start twisting. It'll catch eventually, believe me. And then if it's not plain ball, just curl it over with your finger like that, and then you start to move down. Now, as I was saying before, don't get too tight. Middle bit not so bad. Go down to the end. Not right to the end because you still need to be able to twiddle it. And then come back up. And we're making a lozenge shape. Add your next bit in. I'm just going to go underneath that, look. Right, I'm getting slacker. Look, squidge, 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 squidge. It's an art. Not too skinny, not too skinny, not too squidgy, not too tight. I'm going to show you a different way to do this in a minute. So now I've got a bit bigger, so I might just go for the full width of the sliver. There we go. Ooh. And back up again. We want a nice sort of, you obviously know what means, you know, a nice graduated kind of a shape. That's what I'm saying. Oh look, I've got a gap there. I don't want a gap. Keep this flat. Look, it wants to roll into itself as well, so you just always have to keep on top of it with that idea. A couple of times around there because I don't want to go backwards and forwards too much. I'm going to really spread that out because again it's getting thick at that end. I don't want it thick at that end. I want it thinner. I'm going to come back. And I think I'm going to call it quits on that. This is, look how squidgy it is, look. And the nice thing is we don't need to stab it down too much, but we do need to stab it down enough so that it will just hold its shape. I'm going to stab like that, and then very cunningly we'll just give this a little jiggle here and it comes out, look, and now we've got our shape. So that's my go-to method now of doing these sorts of shapes, and I do a lot of shapes because how I build projects up is with shapes. So look, we've got, it's nice and squidgy, and that'll make a good bit in the middle. Right, so the next bit is going to make another one, and if we didn't have a skewer, what we would do is we'd get our slivers and pop it over there. Now I am rolling on a felted rice bag, so this is like a bag made, basically it's kind of like it's kind of batting, but it's slightly more felted than batting, and then I've got another layer of stabbed batting over the top, and then I just fill it with rice. I'm quite enjoying doing it, but I do use foam as well. So if you have a foam block, this is quite an easy way of doing it because it drags it. If you don't, if you have a wool buddy or one like this, or anything, as long as it has a resistant surface. So if you are using one of those hideous polystyrene jobbies that come in some cheap felting kits, get yourself something decent. I'm just opening this out a bit because it just makes life a bit easier for us. So we've got it and we're going, and it's all going flat and in the right direction. I'm going to move this now because it's starting to annoy me. And we're just going to curl that up there, look. And we've got a bit of a point going. So we're now going to, we're just going to have to lift it up a little bit more because that wants to felt into it too. I'm going to roll. And you know when you do, I always call these sleeping bag rolls. You know when you're camping and you have to roll your sleeping bag up. We're kind of knocking the air out of here. Can you see we've now got that? And we go right up to the end there again, like that. And basically we're going to roll as long as we want to. And the art is to roll it, but don't let it sort of start wandering off. This can be a bit tricky and you might need to practice it, but trust me, it's worth it. Right, it's now starting to twist. And move that. And now I've got another one. Okay, so that's two ways of doing the same job, and I'm going to hold that up against there. I think it might need to be a bit longer, but it might be all right. I might make a slightly smaller one. Well, my tendency is always to make nice and big things. Might make it a bit fatter at the forehead end. But we are only making the basis yet. Big stab, and if you notice, then I rolled it round a couple of times in the same direction as I was wrapping, and that makes sure that it starts to felt it basically. There's bits of gap, look here, it doesn't matter, we're all going to cover it over, look, and I can stab that together, I can smooth it out. That'll be a lot more smooth than this one when I stab it together. So that's why I'm saying to you, make sure you got some squidge, because then you can join them a lot more easily. Look, I'll do that in a little while. So I want you to roll and make another one exactly the same size as that. So it's going to be a 2, and then one slightly smaller at each side. So it's coming up like that. Okay, I'll make you another little one so you know how many and how big they need to be. Do the same rolling technique. I roll up from the bottom, look. I'll roll to one end. Is a bit more tricky is this with the wool, but I'm just trying to get away from foam because for obvious reasons it's not environmentally sound in any way, shape or form. So I'm going to just continue rolling there, up the middle, come back down to this end. And you can give that a tug as well when you've got it's holding its shape, so you can make it go more pointy. And back up again. Where are we? Have a look. Are we doing with a similar? Oh no, we're longer on that other one. So this one, oh yeah, of course it will be. Just realised I'm telling you how to make the third one. So we've got the big one, the middle one, and the other one. Sorry, I've been invaded by the dog. You might be able to hear scratching noises and clattering around with little claws. Sorry about that. So there we go. There we are. It's always easy to build up, not so easy to take away. So if you remember that premise, and yeah, if you're slightly unsure, make it slightly smaller. But these are, I'm just going to get my trusty old tape measure out again. They're about 1.75 inches, so sort of 5 centimetres ish, 4 to 5 centimetres. That's 4 centimetres, and that one is also 4 centimetres. That's, let's say 8 inches really, and then that is 7.5. So, that's 9 and odd. It's where it's going to be meaningfully stabbed. It'll be about 8.5-ish. Okay, so there we go. I will meet you on the other side when we've done that, and we can start stabbing them together.